More big news for LSU continues to come in as the Tigers gain another commitment here on July the 5th. Damian Shanklin, the four-star edge rusher from Indiana, announces his pledge to Brian Kelly in LSU. My name is Bryce Koon. We're going to talk about it here on this episode of Go 24/7. So who is Damian Shanklin? Well, let's kind of start off with what he brings to the table, who he is. 6'4", 35-pound edge rusher out of Warren Central High School, very productive high school in terms of turning out elite talent to the college level. Out of Indianapolis, 2025. When you take a look at his 24/7 sports ranking and you start to kind of look at, how does this guy rank in the eyes of, the experts, the eyes of the folks who do this for a living, he's ranked per 24/7 Sports as a top 50 player in the country, the number 5 edge, and the number 1 player in the state of Indiana. And then obviously 24/7 Sports does their composite rating where they start to really look at, okay, we're going to take into account every single other recruiting service and weigh it accordingly. When you look there, he's still a top 120 player. He comes in at 110th in the country, the 10th best edge in the country, and still the number 1 player in the state of Indiana. Shanklin is able to choose LSU over offers from Alabama, Ohio State, and then LSU. That was his top 3. But this is a guy who was kind of recruited everywhere, a national recruit, being the best player in his state. Tennessee, Florida were also in the mix as well as Notre Dame too. So what does it say about what Shanklin brings to the table? First off, you add your 2 edges, like you're set. You have LeJesse Harold on one side, you've got Damian Shanklin on the other. And I talked about this last week. If you could bring both of those players in, that is quite the combo that you could have, terrorizing opposing quarterbacks over the course of the next 2 to 3 seasons. So Damian Shanklin can do just that. And we'll take a look at his tape here in just a second. But Hudson Standish got the chance to see Shanklin on his latest scouting report just a few days ago on June the 30th. He says that he is a prototype modern defensive end, verified at 6'4.5", around 230, 235 pounds heading into his senior season. He's got great length. You're going to be able to see him use that. His physical tools combat the fact that, or combined with the fact that he has a great first step, Hudson says. Promising knee bend and hip flexibility. He plays strong with strong hands at the point of attack and can quickly disengage to get to the ball carrier. His effort level should never be an issue. He has a hot motor and will pursue the football with fanatical determination, has displayed the ability to win with both speed and power out on the outside. He bends better than most with his side and continues to find leverage while running the arc. He could be utilized, and this is something LSU fans are going to want to keep an eye on, is this is a guy that can be utilized in several different defensive fronts and roles along the line of scrimmage. Depending on how his body continues to mature, he worked as a 7 or 9 technique in high school, projects, and this is what Hudson says, projects as a multi-year impact player at the Power 4 level with the physical clay to be molded into an early round NFL draft pick. I'm going to give my thoughts, but I can go ahead and tell you this is a Kevin Peoples opportunity to mold a player like Damian Shanklin, and then obviously LeJesse Harold, who committed a week or 2 ago, into day 1, day 2 draft picks. Both of these guys have that upside. Shanklin does as well. And look, I had the chance to talk with Shanklin multiple times. So has Glenn West over at our 24/7 Go 24/7 site. This is a guy who understands the opportunity in front of him. He understands this is a defense that's looking for an infusion of young talent blended with some veteran leadership. And Shanklin fits that mold in the 2025 class. So yesterday, LSU adds Zion Williamson on the interior. Today, they add Damian Shanklin. Really, really like what they can bring to the table. Shanklin's a guy that is a very good athlete, like we talked about, has good bend, hip flexibility, and just mobility along the defensive front. And a big reason that his ability to compete in track and field was in the shot put and the discus, was also 4th in state in the discus finals back in 2023 as well. I'll go look at his stats before we kind of jump into the tape here. 2022 was a year where he really kind of popped off and began, showing up on recruiting boards, showing up as a guy that people really, really wanted to see. He had 31 tackles, 8 for loss. There was a lot of violence with the way that he played, 3 sacks and a forced fumble. He nearly doubled that output. In several categories, he did do just that. In 2023, this past season, 66 tackles, 17 tackles for loss, 3 sacks, and an interception from the edge rusher position. So Shanklin is a guy that Took official visits to Alabama, Texas, Tennessee, Notre Dame, and LSU, and Ohio State as well, and comes away with obviously LSU with a big fish that Brian Kelly and this staff have landed. And I want to talk a little bit more towards the end of the show why I think that when you see Kevin Peoples at work, there's a big reason why he was able to nab and snag the commitment of Damian Shanklin. Well, let's take a look now here at the tape. It's always a good opportunity to kind of look at these guys. Shanklin's is a little bit longer, but we're just going to kind of let it play and kind of just wanted to bring it to everyone's attention here. Look, when you watch this guy and what he can do, he is a perfect blend of power and speed off the edge. And I think that's something that when you turn and you look at what you could bring to the table in terms of, hey, can we use him as a stand-up guy? Can he put his hand in the dirt? He's a guy that has stood up a lot, but you see right here, can put his hand in the dirt at the high school level. If he continues to mold his body, develop his ability to do just that, you're talking about a guy that could be all SEC by the end of his career. And so Shanklin possesses a lot of the ability and talents of this. I loved this clip right here. His ability, like Hudson had said, to shed the blocker and play the run as well. Look, I talked about this when, LSU struggled at times last year against the run. Yes, the interior line play was bad, but the edges didn't do a great job of setting the edge and staying firmly planted in their run lanes. And so Shanklin shows a good job of that, and his ability, like right there, to come across formation and make the tackle, that is something you just really can't teach. It's innate ability. It's just understanding the game and just pure athleticism, which is what Shanklin brings to the table. So this is a guy that is really a do-it-all type of athlete. He's violent at the point of attack. I know that there's going to be some thoughts and some concerns about what is the level of play. I mean, look, in the SEC, everyone likes to go get a kid out of the Southeast. Shanklin's out of Indiana, but I think when you watch the tape, when you talk with Shanklin like we have multiple times, he understands the opportunity that's ahead of him. And so I think this is a guy that is going to be able to get into the weight room, get into just the nutritional aspect that LSU can have if he does sign with the Tigers, which all indications, I feel like this is a guy that can end up a part of this 2025 signing class. But if he's able to do that, you're turning around and you're sitting here saying, okay, we've got a dude that we can really mold into the next great pass rusher at LSU. And I talked about the fact that I like the fact that they have comboed with LeJesse Harold. I like the combination of the 2025 class, kind of what they've brought together. So that's a look at some of his tape right there. You continue to see his ability to fight off blocks. And even on that play that you just saw, his ability to stand his ground as the last line of defense on the edge and turn the ball carrier back in. Defensive ends are known that you're thinking they're going to get their sack numbers, but those are the kind of stuff, and that's the kind of stuff that doesn't show up in the box score, but is allowing the defensive tackles and the linebackers to flow freely and kind of funnel everything back into the heart and the middle of your defense, which is something that LSU really, really needs to bring to the table. So I love what Damian Shanklin brings to the table, and so let's talk a little bit about how this happened. Shanklin obviously had visited LSU multiple times, got the chance to talk with him after the spring game. The rave reviews of Kevin Peoples, you have to sing his praises here, because Kevin Peoples has come onto the staff, and I think a lot of people are like, okay, that's awesome. Like the big name was obviously Bo Davis. Everyone was wondering if Corey Raymond was a guy that is going to continue the success that he had previously at LSU. But I think Kevin Peoples is one of the more underrated hires of the offseason in terms of, we'll have to see what happens on the field, but as a recruiter. I've talked with multiple folks, both affiliated with the program and then just on the recruit side and even the family side. And the message has really been, Kevin Peoples and his wife are two of the most likable people that you're going to be able to sit down with and have a conversation, especially in today's day and age of college football. So shout out to Kevin Peoples for getting this work done, for getting the job done. He's got two edge rushers that I think they really, really like. LSU's defensive class is starting to take shape. They've got the linebackers. They've got the edge rushers. They might need, some more help on the back end and things like that. But this is a front seven that's starting to show its mold of what they can be. So Damian Shanklin is a guy that he can be an absolute LSU, one of the LSU freaks of the week when we sit here 365 days from now. He has that type of ability, and I'm excited to see what he brings to the table. So shout out to Kevin Peoples for getting this job done. My name is Bryce Koon. This is the Go 24/7 podcast, instant reaction to LSU snagging the commitment of Damian Shanklin. Thanks so much for watching.